Hey art nerds, did you ever just sit around and wonder why? Why an art supply company that's been in the market for a really long time, is already very established, might introduce a new product that competes with a sister brand? Well, with Grumbacher's new Japanese watercolors, I found myself wondering the same question. At the Chart Pack booth at NAMTA 2024, you had both Kuretake products, including their new anniversary set, and you also had something new from Grumbacher. You had their Japanese watercolors. Now, the reps at Chart Pack were very busy, so no one could answer my questions about how one product differed from the other, or maybe what market Grumbacher was hoping to reach with this product. So I decided to find out as best as I could for myself. So today we're going to be asking ourselves why did Chart Pack, parent company of both Grumbacher and they're the distributor of Kuretake here in the US. They're not the parent company of Kuretake. Why they decided it would be a good idea for Grumbacher to compete with Kuretake in the US market. And boy, do I have some questions today. Hey there, art nerds. So last year I had the pleasure of attending the International Art Materials Trade Association's trade show because it was in my home, New Orleans, Louisiana. And while I was there, I saw all kinds of neat art supplies that were coming to the market. Now, while I saw a lot of really cool things, there were a few things that puzzled me, and I was finally able to get my hands on one of the ones that has me scratching my head. This is Grumbacher's Japanese watercolor set. And the reason this has me confused is their parent company, Chart Pack, also distributes Kuretake in the US. And Kuretake has almost a chokehold on the Gansai style watercolor market here in the US. They got in early, they were adopted by crafters, and a lot of people are familiar with them. So I could not help but wonder why Grumbacher felt the need to bring this product to the market. And the only way to really figure that out is to find out for myself. So what I am hoping to do today is we are going to unbox or unpackage. This was purchased from my local brick and mortar, David's Art Center here in Metairie, Louisiana. So if you're a Louisianian in the area, I highly recommend you check them out. They are locally owned and the owners are just lovely people. Anyway, I bought this at David's. So we're gonna unpackage this, swatch this, and then compare it against Kuretake's Gansai watercolors. So this packaging is actually just David's. Oh no, maybe not. They'd rolled it over. I thought they'd slipped it in a glassine bag, but fairly minimal packaging. We also have our cardboard sleeve. It says unique paint creates both transparent and opaque effects. Japanese watercolor, 6 color, individual slanted wells for clean controlled mixes with every use. This is their mixing set. We're gonna flip it over. They have some paint tutorials using this QR code, unique pan construction. Built-in mixing well keeps the main paint pan clean and undiluted with every use. Slanted well design lets you accumulate thinned paint for washes. Brilliant white pan material allows you to accurately see color mixes and cleans with soap and water. Unique paint qualities. Japanese watercolors made from pigments and a proprietary binder are opaque and dry to an eggshell sheen. Thinning with water yields brilliant transparent color. Excellent lift allows you to add highlights and blend colors once dry. So if these are made the same way traditional Japanese watercolors are made, traditional Japanese watercolors have an animal hide glue as their binder, which makes them permanent once they've dried. It actually means you can't really lift it. These might be using glycerin instead. Glycerin would make them very liftable, but unless they disclose the binder, there isn't really a good way for me to know. Our colors are, okay, so something I like is we have our colors listed, we have our pigments listed. That's really helpful. I really do appreciate that. So this set has carmine, lemon yellow, cerulean blue hue, indigo, Payne's gray, and burnt sienna. And the pigments are fairly straightforward. For carmine, we have PR48 to a ratio of 2, PR48 to a ratio of 3. For lemon yellow, we have PY3. For cerulean blue hue, we have PB29 and PB15 to a ratio of 3. For indigo, we have PY3. I'm not sure what NR stands for. And PB27. For Payne's gray, we have PR48 to a ratio of 3, PB27 and PBK7. And then for burnt sienna, we have PR101. It slides out. This is very reminiscent. Okay, let me show you something. So we're gonna flip it over, and they actually have some information on the back. Now, I'm holding it like this because these are not secured. You don't want to just flip this thing over. Why do you have printing on the back? Come on. Anyway, so we have what I would call half pans in terms of Gansai. It only takes up about half of the pan itself. We have our name of the color and then our color number. And then on the inside, they actually have a printout where everything goes. I actually kind of like that. So this is not a all the way full fill, as you guys can see. I have used all of my Gansai watercolors, some more than others. So it's actually, I'm gonna grab one, but it's hard to do a fair comparison because all of those have been used. So here is a pan that hasn't been used as much as the others. This is from my Kisho Gansai set, and you can see it has been used some, but even this appears to have a deeper fill. So this set was $22.95 at David's. David's being a local business, it is a little more expensive because you are helping to pay their rent. So I don't really mind that, but I am gonna check and see how much these cost online. So these are $20.59 on Amazon and $19.21 at Walmart.com. And again, I do not expect my favorite brick and mortar that carries all of the art supplies and is run by 4 people to compete price-wise with Amazon and Walmart. I'm just sharing those prices because that's the ballpark that most people are gonna see. It might be a little cheaper, it might be a little bit more expensive. So on that note, I feel like these are a little bit expensive for what we're getting. So for context, Kuretake, which is also distributed in the US by Chartpak, the 18 color Gansai Tambi set is going for $20.19 on sale on Amazon, and the list price is $24. So you get 3 times the number of colors and twice as much paint for about the same cost as the Grumbacher Japanese Watercolors. So these better knock my socks off. But I was telling Joseph that I have a feeling this one might get a little salty, just because this is a product that already exists. A similar product is already released by this company. The question is going to be, why do these exist? Why did Grumbacher feel the need to bring these to the market? Are they licensing these from another company, which would be difficult for me to really dig, but you guys might be able to help me out with this, to see how these compare against the Gansai Tambi, because they may have formulated this a little bit different to make it more accessible to people, right? So we really want to know today, why do these exist? Why did Chartpak feel the need to bring these to the market? And sometimes when answering that kind of question, it can start to feel a little antagonistic. So here is your warning. Before we get too far into this, I'm recording this during the snowpocalypse in Southeast Louisiana. We're doing fine, we're warm, we're safe, we got food, our internet went out. So the order of this video might be a little bit different because I'm making notes to myself of things that I want to get footage for, things that I want to look up, and I may choose to discuss those later in the video. So if things are a little out of order, just remember you can always check the chapters and you can always check the transcript to find the information that you're looking for. I will also have the show notes for today's review down in the description below. You are totally welcome to read them. They're usually like a Google Docs list because I write a lot. You're totally welcome to read them and find the information that you're looking for over there as well. So if you are new here, hi, hello, welcome. I'm Becca Hilburn, and I am a watercolor comic artist and illustrator. I make the watercolor webcomic 7" Kara, and I also paint a lot. I am also an art educator and I gig teach with various public libraries in Southeast Louisiana. I have an MFA in sequential art, so that's comics from SCAD, and I've been doing watercolor for over 15 years now. I try to use my education, my experience, and my expertise to help you guys find art supplies that are a good fit for you. If you enjoy the work that I do, you can support me 3 ways. You can join me over on Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup. I regularly share blog posts as a free option, but I have lots of great backer exclusive goodies, including the materials that I create for my in-person classes, which could be perfect for fellow art educators. I also share coloring sheets and printable line arts, and I also share videos like this one, early access to my patrons. I'm also working back on getting into the groove of sharing time-lapse videos and tutorials specifically just for patrons. So if you like the work that I do and if you like supporting me, please join me over at patreon.com/natosoup. The second way that you can support the work that I do is by reading my webcomic, 7" Kara. You can find it at 7inchkara.com. It is a charming tale of friendship set in Southeast Louisiana, and it explores the friendship between 2 very different people. You have Kara, a 7" tall Lilliputian girl who's been sheltered her entire life and is craving friendship and adventure. And you have Naomi, a teenage girl who's had to make a big move from New Orleans to a very small town in Louisiana and is trying to find her feet and trying to find friendship as well. These 2 find commonality in their differences, and I think you will really love this comic. You can read it for free as a webcomic, or if you're like me and you like to own comics in a physical format, you can buy physical copies, or you can request that your own public library acquire copies by filling out a library request form. I have everything you need for you to be able to do that, from the title to the author to the ISBN, and I'll try to remember to put that down in the description. When you guys make library requests from artists like me, it really helps us out a lot, and I truly, sincerely appreciate it. The third way that you can help support what I'm doing here is by hitting like on this video and sharing this video with any community, online or off, that you think might benefit from this. So Discord, Reddit, the more people you tell about this review, the more people find out about me, and that is a huge help. So thank you guys. I hope you guys are excited about today's review. I'm kind of saying that in quotes, and it is actually a review. I don't know why I'm saying it in quotes. I've been doing a lot of other kinds of videos, so I'm like getting back into my usual pattern. Bless you, Joseph. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy today's review, unboxing, and swatching. So when I review art supplies, I really like to hold them accountable to the promises that they make. So the things that they say in their copy on the box, in their listings, these are all things we're going to be looking at and testing. I do also have kind of a standardized way of testing with color swatching, color mixing, and a lift test. And often I will also do a field test of some sort and really put them through their paces. Today, we're going to be doing those things, but we're going to be looking at the transparent and opaque effects. We're going to be testing these for how well these colors actually mix together, because in general, Gansai watercolors are not really intended to be mixed. You get the huge set because you're supposed to be kind of doing limited mixing, but you know, I play by my own rules and I mix my Gansai colors all the time. We're also going to be kind of testing out the wells, seeing how we like those, and just kind of seeing, oh yeah, liftability, right? We want to see how well these are going to lift after they've had a chance to fully dry. Now, if you're new to the world of Gansai, and Gansai is generally, there's a few different types of Japanese watercolor, and I'd love to explore some of the other types with you guys here on the channel. If you're interested, Kuretake Art does a lot with the other types of, and Gansai, but can give a better overview in terms of what those look like than I can. But in general, a Gansai watercolor is intended for Etegami postcards, like these smaller, quicker, more immediate postcards. They are not really intended to lift or to remix. They're basically there that once you put them down, they're not going to move anywhere, so you can do washes on top of them. They do tend to get opaque and maybe even look a little muddy kind of quickly. That's just how these are kind of formulated and what they're kind of intended to do. I have talked about Gansai and Gansai products a lot here on the channel, so make sure you check the description below if you're interested in this art form and you would like to learn more. So I am going to start out by swatching on Blick's Premier cotton rag watercolor paper. This is what I use for pretty much all of my watercolor reviews. Now, I could use rice paper to swatch these as well. That's what I do sometimes with my Gansai style watercolors. I'm not going to do that this time because I kind of have a feeling, just based on what I'm seeing from the marketing, these aren't really meant to be a Gansai. They're probably a glycerin based watercolor that's being marketed as a Japanese style watercolor. But really, the only way we can find out is to get into it and start swatching. So for swatching, I'm not going to pre-activate these because Gansai in general does not benefit from pre-activation. I have 2 swatch lines. We're going to go for an opaque swatch, and then we're going to go for a transparent blended out swatch. These activate pretty quickly. I'm going to use the little side mixing palette, and I'm also doing a washout to see how much these mix out. This is an unusual color selection for a Gansai palette, but they may not be going for a traditional Gansai palette. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So this set is interesting, not necessarily in a good way. This is an unusual color selection for a Gansai palette, but that might not be what they're actually going for. Again, this is a mixing palette. That said, it's not really a great mixing selection either. The red is too warm for really fiery oranges. The yellow is pretty weak. Both of the blues are cool hued, and there's a Payne's gray, which could have been easily mixed if you just sub that Payne's gray for an ultramarine blue. And then there's also a rather muddy burnt sienna. Now, there is also a basic set with other additional colors. That said, these activated readily for the most part, although they're not quite as opaque as claimed. Maybe I didn't do the opaque swatches thick enough though. Next, I want to try color mixing. I'm also going to try applying another layer to see if we can get these more opaque. We're going to do 2 types of color mixing. We're going to do optical and we're going to do atomic color mixing, and that'll give us kind of a good idea of how well these will handle in a watercolor situation. Right now, I'm trying to get these to live up to their claims of being opaque. So I'm going in with another layer of watercolor. You do need some water on the brush to be able to activate these. So there's still going to be some water in the mix. It's not going to be 100% just paint the way you could do with, say, acrylic. But I'm still not seeing the kind of opacity that the box promised. This isn't really a great mixing selection. The red is too warm for really fiery oranges. The yellow is pretty weak. Both of the blues in this set are cool. There's a Payne's gray, which could be mixed easily if you just subbed one of the colors for an ultramarine blue. And there's a rather muddy burnt orange. There's also a basic set available with other additional colors. These activated readily for the most part, although they're not as opaque as claimed. Maybe I just didn't do the opaque swatches thick enough. That's why I went over and gave them a second layer. As for color mixing, I think the slanted pans are a feature to save Grumbacher money because these pans are pretty scant to begin with. Honestly, I think the slanted pans are just a feature to save Grumbacher money because the pans are pretty scant to begin with. When I did a second layer for the opacity test, I thought it was maybe a bit more opaque, but it's not the sort of opacity that I expected. And I figured maybe it needs to dry overnight. So we're doing 2 types of color mixing, optical and atomic. You guys saw me do the line for the optical already. For atomic, I'm a little surprised at what I can mix with these. Decent oranges, decent greens, some good purples, with some good darker browns, but I still feel like the color selection is a bit misplaced. For optical mixing, which we're going to get to in a minute, the colors seem to layer bright and clean, with previous color easily available through the layers, or easily visible, I should say, through the layers. These may be a bit more promising than I thought, but with just 6 colors, painting something will be a challenge. And here are those second glazes
on the optical mixing test. So the whole point of this is we do a layer of color, let it dry, do another layer of color, and let that dry on top of it, and we should get a secondary color out of the two layers.
So now that we've done some color mixing, let's make some mud with the mud test.
The wet into wet test really makes me want to paint an Aurora Borealis. If I had more colors available or brighter colors in this set, that would be awesome. These have really good movement. The field test is going to have to wait until I have internet because I ended up ordering the basic set so I'd have enough colors to try something. So you guys can see how much these colors move when you add water. Now, I'm not sure what paper Grumbacher had in mind for these. With traditional Gansai, they expect that you're going to be using a rice paper or an Etegami paper, and those handle very differently from cellulose and cotton rag papers.
So we've done all of our basic testing. I've got an idea for a field test, but I have to wait until I have internet access again. But I do want to compare these against popular Gansai watercolors. Now, I have I've taken all of my Kuretake Gansai Tambi and I've organized them into this stack from Studio MM. So this isn't really representative of what a Gansai palette might normally look like straight out, and I did want to show you that. So you're gonna have to use your imagination a bit, but these are Paul Rubens Gucci watercolors, so kind of like a Chinese Gansai, kind of. But I wanted to show you the layout because this is pretty typical for Gansai paint sets in general. So you have these larger pans, they're kind of all spread out. The colors are not really secured in. This is also typical for the Kuretake Gansai Tambi. You have the color numbers. Sometimes you'll have the color name printed on the back. I'll show you an example, but this is typically the kind of box, maybe a different format, but the kind of box that you get when you buy a set of Gansai. This does look very similar to the Boko Undo sets. It does look very similar to the Kuretake granulating sets. Any of the smaller Gansai sets do tend to look like whole pan versions of this, but I've basically put them all in this for now, right? So these are Kuretake Gansai Tambi at the top. That's what we're going to be comparing these against. Again, well, these are in here now. Oh yeah, because she included sticky tack. Well, that's gonna make things a little challenging. Anyway, typically with Gansai watercolors, you buy numerous colors. You're gonna get some opaque colors. You're going to get some granulating colors. You're gonna get some pearlescents and some metallics. Generally, the mass tone can make it challenging to tell exactly what the color is going to look like. So having swatches is really beneficial. This is from the Kuretake Gansai Tambi Art Nouveau set. So these are much more like more randy or muted colors. This is from their like new colors from 2020. It was like a spring kind of palette with a skin tone kind of color. Their granulating set. These are the Boko Undo Shadow May and Sumiesque colors. And then these are Kisho watercolors or Kisho Gansai. So I think I can pry these out because these are not sticky tacked in. So these have a color number and the color name on the back. I actually talked about these years ago. Oh, it is challenging to get these out though once they're in. There we go. Okay. So for these, again, it has the number and then it has the name. And if you are interested in buying her Gansai stacks, I'll try to remember to link this in the bottom. They come empty. It's just the 3D printed stacks. But I had so many individual Kuretake palettes that I wanted to kind of combine it into one thing. So what I wanted to do was select the color name from these and pull it out. I do actually have that written down, but I don't have internet, so I can't actually access it right now. what I might do instead is just pick some best guess colors and swatch those next to these. And for the Gansai Tower, studioofmm.com.
These comparison swatches, it was very easy to find a lot of color matches. The only real challenge was Payne's Gray, which doesn't seem to be in the Kuretake 36 color set. I'm not sure Payne's Gray is really available in Gansai style paints commonly.
So an important note about this style of watercolor, glycerin watercolor, or Gansai watercolor, is that you really want to let them dry out fully before you put them away. These could be the ones that turn really soupy if you don't let them dry out fully and may attract mold, because I'm not sure what kind of additives are used to help prevent mold. So what I found interesting is a lot of these colors, not all, but a lot, it's a one-to-one color match. Now, if they're using the same kind of pigments and the same kind of binder, that's not really a surprise. But it really would not surprise me if these were the same kind of product, just marketed under different packaging. And that really would make me want to know why. Chartpak, why are you poaching your own sales? Maybe they're hoping the Grumbacher will become more popular and that way they don't have to license or import the Kuretake. I don't know. Anyway, our carmine, very similar colors. The yellow, let me actually get the correct name. The lemon yellow, very similar colors. The cerulean blue, and I did actually swatch one more, just in case there was one that was, I mean, it looks identical now that I look at it, but you know, just in case, and that ended up being more of an ultramarine blue. Very similar colors. The indigo, I had to swatch a couple to find it, but that's because I really should have swatch sheets for these and I haven't had a chance to make them yet. And some of the mass tone colors are just kind of difficult to guess. So same color. Now with the Kuretake, in fact, I think this is, and correct me gently in the comments if I'm wrong. Again, no internet, guys, but I don't think Payne's Gray is a common color for Gansai style watercolors. I think there are some grays out there, but I just don't think it's like part of that palette. And Payne's Gray is kind of a popular Western color made combining burnt sienna and ultramarine blue generally. So you can mix it yourself or you can buy it pre-mixed as a convenience color. And it can be used for grisé, it can be used for shadows. I really love the color Payne's Gray, and I will do both, mix it myself if I want something with like chunky granulation and personality, or I will use Winsor & Newton's Payne's Gray for silvers and metals like that, because it just has that really cold sort of gray color pre-mixed for me. So very handy as a watercolor comic artist, but not really something you see in a Gansai palette. So the inclusion of a Payne's Gray, while I love the color, is such a mystery because it's not really, it's an easy to mix color. It's not really a great mixing color. It is a good grisé color. And if they had chosen to include that in the basic set, that would make more sense to me, especially because they didn't include an ultramarine blue. And it's not part of a traditional Gansai or Japanese watercolor palette. So I'm really kind of curious about this one. Now, I knew I would not have a Payne's Gray in the set, but I swatched 3 darker colors just in case. 2 beautiful purples and then a sepia. And then for the burnt sienna, and I think they call it something different. I'm gonna have to like check my notes, but basically it's the same color. While this dries, I will say these have some really pretty color movement. You can see a lot of, like, people would call it cauliflowering, but to me this looks like lightning. A lot of bleeding, a lot of bleeding out, a lot of movement with these watercolors, which is not always something that you see with the formulation of a Gansai style watercolor. And I'm including the Gucci Eye watercolors in this as well. Now, I do have a Grumbacher watercolor set floating around that I want to talk about with you guys at some point, and that's when I'll do the head-to-head comparison between the Grumbacher Japanese style watercolors and the Grumbacher tubes. Here are the Grumbacher Japanese watercolors on Amazon. We're also going to check Blick. So far, it seems like they've got 3 sets. The basic set, which is like really bright, kind of praying-esque colors. Then we have the mixing set, which we took a look at today. And then we have our, it looks like our metallics set, which kind of remind me of like Niji watercolors. And the basic set and the mixing set are both over $20, and the glimmer set is just under at $17.17. Now, for contrast, the Yasutomo set, which is 12 colors, is $25. And I actually was sent, I think this was sent to me as part of a kit. So I will talk about that in another video. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting into those with you guys. But what's strange is, oh, and see, then you have the 48 color Kuretake set, and it's $34.38 for right now. This is crazy cheap, to be honest. I'm not telling you to go out and buy them. I'm just acknowledging this is really, really cheap for a set this size. As well as the Mozart Komorebi set, which I actually own this set. I really like this set, and I enjoy painting Etegami with it because these are more like full-size Western pans, whereas these are like double the size. So this has a smaller footprint that makes it a little bit easier to use on a desktop. But as you guys can see, even just searching Grumbacher Japanese watercolors, you get a lot of different options. This is a fairly saturated market. Even the set of 12 from Kuretake, which is twice as many colors, is still cheaper than the Grumbacher set. So I'm not really sure why Chartpak felt the need to enter this market, because this market is an established market. The companies that have been, like Kuretake just celebrated its more than 100-year anniversary, right? So I don't really understand the rationale of Grumbacher, which is also distributed by Chartpak, offering a competing product. And more expensive and less paint. Just none of that makes any sense to me. Ew, these actually look kind of intriguing. I will look at that at a later date. I was looking to see if I could find like any branding, any additional information. It really seems like no. Okay, well, let's see what Blick has to say about these. So, according to Blick, these are opaque, professional quality watercolors, highly pigmented and light fast, colors dry to an eggshell sheen, white pan ensures accurate color mixtures. Grumbacher Japanese watercolor sets contain highly pigmented Japanese pans crafted with a proprietary binder that produces brilliant opaque colors. Thick and creamy, colors are characterized by their richness and depth, drying to an eggshell sheen that set them apart from gouache. Thin with water to achieve translucent watercolor effects. See, I did not notice that depth from these. Excellent lifting qualities allow you to add highlights and blend colors at any time during the painting process. A patent pending well design keeps colors clean while mixing, or you could just use a palette, y'all. The slanted mixing well not only prevents dilution of the original pan, but also facilitates the accumulation of thin color. It sounds like a justification to only give you half the paint at twice the price. So what we're seeing here, 3 sets, and then this is what the set actually looks like without the container. Our basic set, which is scarlet, transparent orange, cadmium, yellow hue, sap green, French ultramarine, and violet. Our glimmer set, which comes with maraschino, rose, stardust, verdigris, deep sea, and amethyst. And our mixing set, which is carmine, lemon yellow, cerulean blue, indigo, Payne's gray, and burnt sienna. And I kind of feel like the basic set and the mixing set together would give you the best chance at using these as mixable watercolors. And these are even more expensive on Blick, which is a little surprising because Blick usually has the best prices. But I know Amazon has been doing Amazon kind of things about, you know, requiring prices to be the lowest on Amazon or they just won't show up at all, which is terrible for small businesses. So $22.60 all across the board here. And then we have Grumbacher.com, so Grumbacher.chartpack.com. Tradition. Oh, okay. Introducing Japanese watercolor sets, meticulously crafted to produce brilliant opaque to transparent body colors. Time-honored Eastern formula. Engineered pans to keep your colors clean while mixing. Engineered to save them money. Grumbacher poured Japanese watercolor pans are made from time-honored Eastern formula. From a time-honored Eastern formula. Meticulously crafted to produce brilliant opaque body colors. When used in a thick, creamy consistency, the color has richness and depth that dries to an eggshell sheen, setting it apart from gouache. With a simple adjustment of watercolor, you can achieve equally stunning yet translucent watercolor effects by thinning the paint in the pans mixing well. Yes, that's watercolor. This specialized formula is highly pigmented and lends itself to excellent lifting qualities, giving you the freedom to add highlights at any time during the painting process. And when it comes to blending, our colors offer ultra smooth gradients and seamless color transitions. The patent pending well design in our pans is engineered to keep your colors clean while mixing. The slanted mixing well not only prevents dilution of the original pan paint, but also facilitates the accumulation of thin color. Each pan and well can be adjusted to your painting environment. They literally just mean you can take them out and move them around. Eliminating unintended drips and spills. Okay, look, I gotta tell you guys this. Like, sometimes you can tell a company really needs to, like, hire other artists who aren't already their ambassadors to be consultants, because like anybody who has used Gansai is probably wondering, one, Becca, why did you review these? Y'all know I have to see, and two, knows that there's like 13 similar products on the market that do what this is doing, and giving me half a pan of paint ain't the innovation you seem to think it is, Grumbacher. So, you know, might be a good opportunity to get in touch with artists again. So this is what it looks like. I wish I still had the copy from NAMTA. I threw the little pamphlet. So I talked about this a lot in the NAMTA blog. Most of the people we got to talk to at NAMTA were really nice and really excited to tell us about their products, and we're really excited to talk to people who are excited about art supplies. Chartpack, the people at Chartpack were like pointedly ignoring us. And I kind of shuffled around their booth very slowly, trying not to film them, but like filming the products. And I had actually waited like 10 minutes before that to talk to them to ask permission if I could film in their booth. And I was just ignored, and I was ignored while filming. And I tried to approach one of them to ask about the Grumbacher set, and like they immediately walked off to go talk to somebody more important. It was wild. That was like the only instance at NAMTA where like they were really not interested in talking to someone they didn't recognize. Maybe it was like the last day of the show. It was a little slow, but maybe they were busy. I don't know. I don't want to like make judgments, but what I was going to say is I was going to ask them how these differ from the Kuretake Gansai Tambi that they also distribute, because Chartpack distributes Kuretake, as I mentioned, and that would have been a perfect opportunity to do that, and they just were not interested in talking to me. So I grabbed the pamphlets that they had for these. And also, they had like a bunch of Kuretake products that I was really excited about, and I wanted to talk to them about those. It wasn't just like I was going to ambush them. I had like multiple product questions. But I'm bringing up that story because maybe this is a deeper problem than like because I feel like this is almost like a lack of market research if you're going to release a product that poaches from your other products. I don't know. Grumbacher Japanese watercolor pans are made from, whoa, we're just repeating ourselves again here. There's nothing different here. Why do you have the same copy multiple places on your website? I do not know. I mean, it looks pretty. Like, I'm sure these are quality watercolors. I'm going to need more colors, I think, to do a good field test, but like, I don't think the quality is the problem. I think there's an existing product that costs less than this product and you get twice as much distributed by the same parent company. That, I think, is the problem. So here's Chart Pack, because I do want to show you guys. Okay, so we've got Grumbacher. I'm not seeing Kuretake here. I may have to insert footage from NAMTA. Not that I think you guys don't believe me, but you know. And I have to be real, like, other than Kuretake, I've used a lot of their other brands and not loved a lot of their other brands. So if you watch the channel, if you're old here, hi, thank you for coming back and hanging out with me today. We visit the Kuretake site a lot. So, you know, I think we last visited when I did the granulating watercolors. So this is what I've been comparing these to. This is what I've swatched it against. This is their color lineup. They have so many beautiful colors. I've reviewed many. I have not reviewed all. And some of the colors I'd like to be able to get open stock. I'm going to have to get them from St. Louis Art Supply because they have like this Go Fun white that's like an off-white that I think would be... I already use Buff Titanium and Naples Yellow to do highlights on skin, especially darker skin tones. So having something like Go Fun White would be a really useful color for me. How to collect all the colors. I appreciate this because some of the sets, most of the sets have duplicates. So, isn't this gorgeous? This is their anniversary set. If I didn't have so many, I would have gone this route. This is just beautiful, but I have so many. Anyway, so this is kind of who I am comparing the Grumbacher against. I even love that they have the art gallery. That is the Kuretake site via Chart Pack. So you can kind of see why I'm bringing up some of these concerns, because these are distributed by the same company. So while reading Grumbacher's copy about these paints, they kept talking about how liftable these are and how blendable these are. And I always do a lift test, but I also wanted to do a blendability test down here. Now we are going to do a field test with these, but this will also help me give an idea or get an idea of how true are their claims. So we're going to start with the lift test. I have a fairly soft synthetic brush for this. The intention is not to just scrub it up. I do have scrubber brushes. It's just to see how easily these lift, and then we'll move on to the blend test. These do not lift, like at all. Not surprising for a Gansai, but not what Grumbacher promised. Do they test their products before making these kind of claims? So one of their promises is that these are really lifting even after drying. And I let these dry overnight. The humidity is pretty low in our house, but these still should have re-lifted, at least somewhat. These are not lifting at all. And that didn't really surprise me because Gansai watercolors are designed not to really be lifting and reworkable. With Gansai, if you want to lift, you got to do it while it's still wet. And so I don't know why they made that claim. Maybe they lifted while it was still damp. I don't know, but they do not have the lifting properties that they claim to have. But maybe they have the blending properties.
These blend fine, normal for watercolors, but not exceptional.
These blend all right, like any decent watercolor will blend, like Kuretake's Gansai Tambi will blend, or Mei pigments will blend. Like, they do blend. It's pretty standard. It's, I don't know. You know, I take marketing fluff as like something to test on. So maybe I'm being too harsh. They blend fine, but they're not like exceptional the way I would say Marie Blue have this really exceptional quality to them where they can blend and they retain a lot of their color vibrancy. We're seeing that somewhat, but then due to the color choices in this palette, we're seeing just a lot of color lost between our cool red and our mid yellow. It's making a very kind of dull, almost like a skin tone kind of orange. And if you're bragging about blendability, I'd like to see some really brilliant color blends that maintain that chroma after you've added water, after you've added another color, and after they've had a chance to dry. Hey guys, it's been a minute, but I have some new colors. This is the basic set. And in this set is Scarlet, Transparent Orange, Cadmium Yellow Hue, Sap Green, French Ultramarine, and Violet. These are made in Japan, which makes me wonder who is manufacturing these. Surely not Kuretake, right? Surely they are not poaching their own bottom line. So the pigments for these are, starting with Scarlet, NR, PY3, Transparent Orange is PY1, NR, PY42, and I actually am not sure what NR stands for here. They did not provide a key. Cadmium Yellow Hue is PY1, PY55, Sap Green is PY1, PG7, PY42, French Ultramarine is PB29, and Violet is PV23, BR12, and PB1. And other than the colors being different, there isn't much difference here. Don't understand why they're double wrapped. You literally could just have the little hanger made of cardboard on the top. And here are our colors. Very similar to before. Just want to pull one out. So Violet makes it easy to line things up, and the pan says Grumbacher on the back. So what I want to do is I'm going to swatch these over here. I am going to add them to my swatches here. I believe this bottom row here is Grumbacher. And then I think we can finally get started on our Fieldtest bookmark. Colors in the basic set are Scarlet, NR, PY3, Transparent Orange, PY1, NR, PY42, Cadmium Yellow Hue, PY1, PY55, Sap Green, PY1, PG7, PY42, French Ultramarine, PB29, Violet, PV23, BR12, PB1. So swatching the basic set, there is a good additional selection of colors that offer a lot more variety. It's a shame that if you want a good mixing set of the Grumbacher Japanese watercolors, it's going to cost about $50 because you have to buy 2 sets. It's easy to do a rainbow road with this set as well. In general, the colors in this set make sense together. All right, so we have swatched our colors. I actually like these better than the colors in the initial set. Now I want to do comparative swatching against Kuretake again, see if we can find these colors in the Kuretake set, because these are Japanese made Japanese watercolors. Again, we're doing comparative swatching against Kuretake Gansai Tambi.
These look like a pretty one-to-one comparison. It was easy to find exact matches for all of the colors in the basic set. And I have to wonder, is this due to pigment and formulations, or is Kuretake making Grumbacher's paints? I also want to note that these two sets combined are not the Kuretake 12 color set. And if you guys are curious, I'm going to have links for you guys down in the description. This is actually more similar to the 14 color portable set that I like and have used for years. For today's field test, I'm going to be using Hanamule's pre-cut cotton rag watercolor rounds. I actually have a video where I talk about these and their bookmarks and several of their papers in more depth. Make sure you check the description below for that. I wanted something that could take a lot of water, so it was important to use a cotton rag. So I am going to just douse it with water and then just do layers of paint using a large flat brush. And I did a bunch of layers, and at the time it kind of felt like I was just making a mess, so I was like, let's just call this a base layer. That said, the colors are pretty, they diffuse readily, there's nice wet into wet mixes, interesting granulation and movement on a cotton rag paper, so these are not bad. So for these, I'm going to allow them to dry out in between sessions. You guys see me making a mess right now. I'm really trying for that like Aurora Borealis sort of stripe effect, and I'm really not succeeding with that, but that's okay. The way we get better at watercolor, the way we learn watercolor, is to try different things and to make mistakes and to learn and not be afraid of just wasting the paint. So you guys can see that really pretty granulation in the close-up. I allowed it to dry fully. Now I'm going in with another layer. So when it dried, I added purple, pink, yellow, and phthalo blue. One of the things that I want to point out about this is that we have some really beautiful color movement while these are still wet. The colors keep most of their vibrancy once they dry. We are adding a lot of water, and we're able to do a lot of layers without it necessarily just reactivating and turning to mud. That's one of the reasons we're working on a cotton rag paper rather than a cellulose, is a cotton rag will hold on to those pigments in the fibers, whereas with the cellulose, everything just kind of sits on top. I am working from several different photo references for my Aurora Borealis effect, but I'm not trying to paint any one in particular. You guys could see I did a lot of layers with that, and basically in between sessions I let it dry fully. So it actually took a few days for me to just kind of paint this in the background. I wanted to do a wet into wet diffuse technique with white gouache, so I wet the paper and then I splattered in some white gouache, and that gives us kind of the softer starry effect. I allowed that to dry fully, and then I went in with some splatters, and that's going to give us like a more distinct sort of star effect. Now, I am terrible at painting freehand landscape trees the way a lot of the internet landscape artists like to do. I'm practicing, I'm trying. It could be my brushes, it could be me, but I'm not good at it. But I did want a tree line at the bottom, and then I also wanted to kind of create maybe like a snow drift effect down in the bottom, and I'm using the Payne's Gray for this. So for this field test, I tried to use as many colors as possible just to kind of give me experience with all of the paints to see if they would do something unusual if given the opportunity. For the purposes of this field test, these are fine. I would not say they're particularly different from Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolors, and I would say that for what I had to buy to be able to paint this field test, you're better off with the Kuretake Gansai Tambi because you're going to be able to get a lot more paint for the same price point. Since these are Japanese watercolor paints, according to Grumbacher, I decided it was only fair to do an Etegami style watercolor postcard. So I pulled some Etegami paper from my stash. If you're interested in learning how to do Etegami postcards, there are lots of resources on the internet that will help make it accessible. It is a wonderful art form that is meant to be more immediate and more direct, and you don't overthink it, and it's to allow you to send these hand-painted postcards to people you care about, just as little seasonal greetings. So I'm sketching in some flowers. I know the whole point of Etegami is to kind of go in and freehand it. I'm just admittedly terrible at that. I need some kind of a game plan. So I am working with some photo reference. I forgot what kind of flowers that I'm painting. It was something that I had on my phone, I think. Probably from my mom's flower beds because she's more of a gardener than I am. And I really just kind of wanted to play around with painting something loose and sort of freehand with these and seeing how the paper reacts. Now, Etegami paper is very different from a cellulose paper, and different Etegami papers will have different blending and bleeding and feathering properties. That's one of the things that makes this really fun, is you can get kind of like very diffuse tie-dye techniques. And I wanted to see how these would handle on an Etegami paper. And honestly, pretty similar again to the Gansai Tambi. I don't really like the form factors of these. They take up a lot of space. I don't really need the little individual mixing wells because I usually use a ceramic palette when I want to mix colors. So for me, this just felt like a lot of kind of wasted space without really a lot of extra features. And it also means that we're getting like half the paint as opposed to if we went with the Gansai Tambi, for example. I'm also going to bring up Moz Art Komorebi watercolors. Those are not like an official Gansai product, but they're one that I have used for Etegami postcards a lot. You can see that here on the channel. I'll make sure to link that playlist down in the description for you guys if you guys are interested in learning how to paint flowers. That is a great resource. I hope you will check it out. But anyway, those are pretty affordable. We're going to talk about those in a little bit more depth in a minute. I've talked about them here on the channel. I've shown them a lot on the channel. So I would recommend the Komorebi set over this set. You get about 40 colors. You do get some metallics, which I do not care about at all, but you do get a range of good colors in kind of Western standard full-size pans. So smaller than a Gansai pan, but the form factor is much easier to paint with if you have limited desk space. I would also recommend Kuretake's travel palettes. Those things are great and they're really fun to use, particularly if you have limited workspace or limited desk space, since Gansai can take up a significant amount of room on your desktop and tabletop. But all in all, I found that these handle pretty much like regular Gansai style paints. They don't have any unusual properties that would make me select them over Kuretake. And it still doesn't answer the question of why Chartpak is both distributing Kuretake in the US. They're their official US distributor, and also working with Grumbacher to distribute these Grumbacher Japanese Watercolors. Like, it still doesn't answer the question of why do these exist? Why did you maybe not do your market research? I can't really seem to tell. You can get slightly more opaque colors on this kind of paper. You guys see I'm going in with the purple and I'm going in pretty heavy and then blending it out. So on an Etegami paper or maybe even a cellulose paper, you are probably going to be able to get something more similar to gouache than what I was achieving earlier on the cotton rag paper. I really hate when my watercolor paper bucks and kipples, so I had to tape it down to kind of keep it, you know, flat. And there was some paper tearing. You could use weights to help hold it down, whatever works for you. So here is the resulting Etegami postcard. It's supposed to be violets. I don't really think they look that much like violets, but violets are one of my favorite flowers. So that's what I chose to paint. It's supposed to be violets on Etegami paper. It was fine. Not necessarily better than Gansai Tambi. Not really sure why these are on the market. Not really sure what Grumbacher is doing with these. So we did not one, not two, but 3 field tests of the Grumbacher Japanese watercolors to really put them through their tests. We also did a bunch of swatching, and not only did I buy the mixing set, but I also bought the basic set to really try and give this as fair a review as possible. And I'm still left with the question, what was Grumbacher thinking? Better yet, what is Chartpak thinking? Because they're the distributor for Kuretake Gansai Tambi. Why are they releasing another extremely similar product in the same market? So I wasn't really able to come up with that answer. If you guys have any theories, let me know. But let's talk about the pros and the cons. These are easy to activate. They offer saturated color. They diffuse cleanly and they mix fairly clearly, especially in actual application. The cons? These are basically just Gansai watercolors. They're more expensive than Gansai. They get used up very quickly. I would not say that I use these like a lot, and they still got used up very quickly. These are half pans for a Gansai, and then they are only filled up halfway in that half pan, so you're basically getting a quarter of a Gansai pan. My verdict? Just buy Kuretake's Gansai if you want this type of paint. The Gansai Tambi 24 color set, this is with the large full pans filled more than these are filled, is $34 on Amazon. You may be able to find these cheaper elsewhere. And the watercolor transparent 14 color studio set, or travel set, I guess, rather, is $25. And I feel like you're getting about as much paint in that as you are with this. It is in a traditional half pan format, but they've been filled all the way. This is also a palette that I've used a lot when traveling, and I used to love that palette, and it might be time to revisit it and see if it's worth recommending in 2025. So if you're interested in seeing me review Kuretake's watercolor transparent Gansai Tambi portable set, let me know down in the comments. And if you're looking for Gansai style watercolors but you're open to different options, I talked about the Mozart Como Rebi set here on the channel years ago. I have been using it since. I really like it. I would recommend that set over this set. It is currently $18.88 over on Amazon, and it is beautiful for Etegami postcards, but also for watercolor art like this and this and this, which were done in my Shizen watercolor sketchbook. And before I sign off, I just went with Amazon prices because it is a quick, easy comparison. I am not endorsing that you use Amazon to purchase your art supplies. In fact, I would highly recommend you go to your local brick and mortar and see what they have to offer. Not only can they often offer competitive prices, but also customer service that honestly Amazon just does not have. Also, you get to know that you are supporting a small business, which is very important right now, and that you're also supporting other artists because art supply stores tend to hire other artists. So that would be my recommendation, is to check your favorite local art supply store first. And then if they don't carry it, like if they don't have the Gansai Tambi, and I know mine, David's Art Center, does, you can try Michaels. This is a very popular brand for Michaels to carry way back in the watercolor section. Good luck finding someone to help you find them though, because Michaels just doesn't employ enough people anymore for that. It's pretty ubiquitous. Any large chain art supply store will have these, including Blick.
Okay, hello Bowie. We're gonna keep rolling, why not? Let me turn around so you don't have to look at cat butt. Meow, meow. Okay, so unfortunately a lot of my questions are still not really answered. I don't know why Grumbacher decided they needed to release their own Japanese style, Gansai style paints. I don't know why these paints cost basically twice as much as Kuretake, but you only receive 1/4 of the amount of paint. I do not know. They handle fine. They have nice, bright, brilliant colors. They handle like Gansai watercolors should. They're almost identical in a lot of ways to Kuretake in terms of how they swatch and how they handle. So I have no answers as to why Grumbacher decided they needed to release such a product, but I do have an answer for you guys. I would not recommend these watercolors to you. If you are on the market for something that handles similarly to these, I would say just go ahead and get the Kuretake Gansai Tambi. They are less expensive, they are widely available, and you're going to get more paint. And if you don't want the Gansai Tambi in the big like double pans, you can also get their travel set, which will basically give you the same colors that you get in these two kind of overpriced packs. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I enjoyed hanging out with y'all. If you have any questions for me, let me know down in the comments below. And if there's ever a watercolor supply that I haven't yet reviewed yet that you'd like to see me talk about, let me know that as well. If you're new here, it is super late and I apologize for that, but hi, hello, welcome. I'm Becca Hilburn. I hope that you enjoyed today's review. If you do enjoy reviews like this, make sure that you are subscribed and you click the bell notification. These paints were purchased out of pocket. These paints were purchased out of pocket with funds from my Patreon. They help make the magic happen on this channel, and on occasion, they help make sure that Bowie gets extra treats. So if you want Bowie here to get extra treats, and he would like extra treats, make sure you join me over at patreon.com/NattoSoup. Stop, don't do that, be gentle. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope to see you guys again soon with another art supply review tutorial or art class. And I hope that you guys found this helpful, useful, and inspirational. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye! Yeah, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful gray. Are you a wonderful gray? Oh, you must be. Yes, you is. Oh, good boy. Okay. All right, shall we go? Shall we say goodbye? You not ready to say goodbye? Goodbye, Bowie. Goodbye.